Alright everybody, what do bright colors, mullets, BMX biking, missing textures, and Cliff Bleszinski all have in common? Well, apparently, radical heights.
So,
Sit back
relax.
and enjoy.
My film.
Alright, so this is Radical Heights. This is an 80s inspired battle royale game by Boss Key Productions and Cliff Bleszinski. Now, I think some of you might know one of my first earliest videos was on Lawbreakers, which was a Boss Key Production game, and I played it during early access before it actually became available, and I gave my thoughts on that and what I thought they should do, and they didn't do anything that I had mentioned in the video, and the game ended up dying. Now, I'm not saying that if they had listened to me, the game would have done much better, but I definitely think they did go the wrong route with Lawbreakers, and I called it way back then, so I thought it was only pertinent with me getting the email that this game had come into extreme early access yesterday to give it a shot. Now, I actually played the game several times yesterday and today before I made this video. I didn't want to actually do the video until I'd played a good amount of time and had a hands-on impression on it. Because I didn't want to give you guys like a game of telephone where I heard this and I heard this, because that's been a big problem in the gaming industry here lately. In order to get stories out, people are pushing reviews and early impressions without actually either playing the game and just going off other people's word, or they're playing it very, very, very little and giving just a quick rundown. And I'm not like that. I like to play the games and actually enjoy, or try to enjoy playing them before I do a review. So here's my thoughts on this game, and hopefully you guys take something away from this and decide whether or not you want to try it or not. Now, like I said, this game is in extreme early access, and that is not a joke whatsoever. It is very, very early access, and I am very disappointed with Boss Key Productions for even putting something like this out, because, to be completely honest, this just seems like a money grab. As soon as I even heard about this game, I was like, well, this sounds like a money grab. They're trying to cash in on the Battle Royale phase, and I don't really blame them for that. From a business standpoint, it does make a lot of sense. The Battle Royale thing is huge right now, with Fortnite being massive. H1Z1 just recently going free-to-play, which kind of aggravates me because I've owned H1Z1 forever. But so when I heard about this game coming out, I was like, okay, well, clearly this is a cash grab, but who knows? You know, Cliff Bleszinski, as much as I dislike the guy's personality, Lawbreakers was not a bad game. They just handled the marketing for it and the publishing of it wrong. So I thought, well, you know, I'll give this game a shot. It's in extreme early access. It's free to play. You know, it doesn't hurt anything to play the game. So I downloaded it yesterday, and for starters, like I said, it's extremely early access. There is missing textures, there's broken physics, it's a resource hog from hell. Doing the recording for this video, I ran it on medium settings so I could get the 40 to 60 frames per second mark while recording, and I would still have hitches here and there, and it used up about, I'd say, at least 40% of the RAM in my system, not even including my GPU. So it is definitely a resource hog, which that's to be expected with anything that's made in Unreal Engine 4. They're all resource hogs, but you can optimize them, and Fortnite's a great example of that. But not everybody can do as good as Fortnite can, because let's face facts here. Fortnite is made by Epic, who owns and made Unreal Engine 4, so we can't all expect every game to be as optimized as Fortnite. With that being said, like I said, it's in extreme early access, so if it doesn't run properly on your system, I wouldn't recommend like upgrading your system just to play this game, because it's not your system, it's the game. It's very poorly optimized. And with that being said, with it being such early access, the extreme early access is not an understatement, and I'm very disappointed with Boss Key Productions even releasing this game in the state that it's in. There's no textures on some of the buildings. They look very ugly. The inside of buildings and houses are not completely finished. And there's no female models. I've already seen some people complaining about that, especially feminists. They have a huge problem with, why is there no female models, only male? So it definitely makes sense that, you know, this game is in extreme early access, and it does really kind of irk me a little bit that they would bother pushing this game out. Even though it is free to play, it's free to play with a $15 Founders Pack that you can buy. And that's definitely what they are hoping to sell more of by pushing it out so early in such an early access state, is that hopefully some people will jump in and buy that Founders Pack and make them some money, which I don't recommend doing, because they were so quick to rush this thing out, and it's not even remotely like, people say that Ark was bad when it first released in early access. I bought Ark when it was first released in early access, and compared to this game, Ark was a AAA finished game compared to this thing. This thing is very, very, very unfinished. Like, there's not even textures on a lot of the buildings. So I'm very disappointed in Boss Key for just trying to jump on the money train to cash in on the Battle Royale craze, that they were so desperate that they threw out an unfinished game. With that being said, let's talk about the gameplay, because I know that's what you're all here to see. So let's talk about that a little bit. Now, for the most part, it's a standard Battle Royale game. 100 people drop in, one person or two people, last two, depending duo or squad, or last team wins, last person wins. Same as any Battle Royale game. Now, there's no parachutes. When you jump in, you don't get to choose when you drop. It drops you into these assigned areas. Now, the way that the zones get cut off, it reminds me a lot of the Darwin Project. Now, the Darwin Project, I think, executes this a little bit better. And if you guys have seen my Darwin Project review, I'm not much of a fan of that style of the way it closes off zones. But this game does it too, and the way it does it is kind of weird, because it'll reopen some zones so you can walk around and get to zones that were originally cut off, and then it slowly just starts cutting everything down, and it ends the game with a final shootout, is what it's called. When it's close to the end of the game, there's so many players left, assign a zone as the final shootout, and you've got so much time to get there to win the game. Now, that's one thing I like, but I don't like. I think if they just tweak the way they close off the zones, I think I'd like it a little bit more, but it is kind of weird. I'm not really a big fan of it, because everything is squared and boxy. Your map doesn't rotate, so it's kind of hard to see because it's a little bitty red arrow. Kind of hard to see what direction you're facing on the map because it doesn't rotate, because the arrow is so small, and it's hard to see what direction you're going, what the actual distance is. I think if they change that a little bit, tweak it a little bit more, it'll be a little bit more user-friendly and a little bit easier to understand. But the biggest difference in this game and every other Battle Royale game, which sets it apart now, but I'm not sure if it's... I like it now. I enjoy it now. I'm not sure if I'm going to enjoy it in the longevity of the game, though, and that's the cash system. Now, you start out with no money in your account when you start your first game, and you can find things. You can find, like, cassette players, video game consoles. You can hit cash registers to get cash, laundry machines, all kinds of stuff. You can get money from these things, and you can deposit it into an offshore account. Now, you deposit $100 at a time, so if you don't have $100, you can't deposit any of it. You only deposit $100 at a time, and that stores onto your account. And you can pull that money back out in the middle of a game at an ATM. You can pull that money out, and you can spend it on these vending machines to get weapons. Now, in a way, I really like that because the game's so new. Because the game just came out yesterday, it pretty much is only affecting those of us that are like, okay, well, I've had a bad couple runs, but I've got, $3,000 stored in my account. I'm going to buy a gun. So I have a better run this time. That works out now. Now, for the longevity, I'm not really sure if it's going to work out, because you got to understand that the longer this game goes, you're going to have people that are wanting to be the best at this game. And what one strategy would easily be will be to, okay, well, aim for the laundry room or the arcade constantly and try to get as much cash as possible. Don't worry about living or dying. Get as much cash as possible and farm for several games, and then take all your winnings and just buy the most OP guns you can at the beginning of the match. And that's going to be a negative impact on the casual player or the new player, because they're coming in with no money or not very much money, and they're just trying to play the game like they would PUBG or Fortnite, and you're starting the game off with armor and weapons, and it puts people at an unfair advantage just because you've been farming the game for so long. So I think that will actually hurt the game in the long run. Like I said, it's a fun concept now, but I think in the long run, it's probably going to damage the game. And another big thing is guns are not very easy to find in this game. I've noticed that. I mean, I've ran around several, like, there's been bad games in PUBG or Fortnite where I've landed on a house and I've looted 2-3 houses, and the most I find is a pistol or something. That happens, but in this game, it seems like you can loot an entire town and not find anything. And I think that's on purpose. I think that's intentional because they want to enforce the whole cash system, which I don't think is a good idea. You can't force something like that, because then you're going to lose your casual players. Now, when this game was marketed, and I heard about it, the whole thing was it was a BMXing 80s Battle Royale game. Now, there are bikes. I've had them a couple of times on here, but I mean, for the most part, they're not a big part of the game. And I really don't even see a real point in them. There are like ramps and stuff, but I've yet to see an actual reason for these bikes. I mean, the map is not that big. You don't need to really travel that fast. And the way it breaks everybody up when it drops you in and the zones are all divided, you're a lot less likely to run into people in this game than you are in like Fortnite or even PUBG. You know, with PUBG, vehicles make sense because the map is so big and there's only 100 players, and you all choose where you go, and you could be the only person in this area. But in this game, it already automatically divides you all up when it drops you in, so you're only going to land with like 2 or 3 people anywhere remotely near you, and depending on which direction they go, you might not run into a person until the last 10 people left in the game. So the BMX thing, if they're really wanting that to be a selling point for the game, they need to find a better use for it, most definitely, because there's really not a point of even being on the bike in this game. And the same thing goes with trampolines. There's trampolines all over the place that you could find. I've yet to find a real reason for the trampolines. You don't get enough height off the jump. It's not like the launch pad in Fortnite where you can jump up and then glide across the sky. No, it just launches you up and then you fall to the ground. I mean, I've yet to see any real reason to have it. It doesn't really seem to serve a purpose. I don't know if they've got a purpose in the long term for both the BMX bikes and the trampolines to give them more impact in the game, but really I'm not seeing a reason for it. Now, the way the loadouts work, instead of having a backpack, you have 3 weapon slots and 3 gear slots, and 2 of which are locked on either side. When you start the game, you can get 1 weapon, 1 gear, and you can find a +1 or max gear slot, max weapon slot add-on, which will unlock those slots for you, so you can have up to 3 weapons and up to 3 gear. I like that because it does keep you from having to worry about, well, do I have a backpack? Do I have enough ammo? Do I have enough? From what I've seen, you can carry as much ammo as you want. When it comes to weapons and gear, though, you can't. So now I might be wrong on the ammo. I've not maxed out to where it's told me I had to put ammo down, so I don't know. But from what I can tell, you can have as much ammo as you want. There is no backpack system really, and there's no worrying about it. Now, there is armor in the game. Again, like the weapons, it's hard to find. I found it a few times, but it really didn't seem to do any good even when I did find it. Most times in gunfights, if they've got a certain gun, like there's one, it's called a Colt Python, it's basically a revolver. It doesn't matter if you've got a helmet and a vest on, you get one shot in the head with that, you're gone. So there is armor in the game, and the inventory system is interesting. There isn't any weapon attachments as far as I can see. It's got a gun rarity system similar to Fortnite, where there's, common, uncommon, rare, epic, legendary. So it does play a lot like Fortnite in that aspect. Now, the gunplay in this game is interesting, especially from a third-person perspective. It feels to me like a very good mixture and balance between Fortnite and H1Z1. There are things in Fortnite that I like I like the way the guns react in Fortnite, but I don't like the RNG mechanic that they use in the gunplay. And H1Z1, I really like the game itself as a whole, and I like the way you can aim, but I really don't like the fact that you can get two-shotted by somebody from a mile away when the reticle is only the size of the ballpoint of a pin. So it feels like a good balance between both of those games, which Cliff Bleszinski, he made Gears of War, so it's obvious that this guy knows what he's doing when it comes to third-person style shooting gameplay. And like I said, it carries over into this game. It actually works pretty nicely from a third-person perspective. But the ADS, on the other hand, is very, very, very bad. It's very inaccurate. You can be aiming right at somebody, and the bullet will veer off to the right or the left. It feels almost like it's accurate when it's third-person, and it really does go RNG when you're in first-person ADS, which I think needs to be flipped if that is the stance, if that's the way they're going with it. They need to flip that, because every time I used ADS from first person, it barely made contact. I'd be aiming right at somebody not moving, and the bullet would go to the right or to the left. And it wasn't when the gun recoiled that the bullet veered. It was just where the gun was aiming. So I don't really know why it's that bad. So I like the gunplay when you're from a third-person perspective. If you play the game, I don't recommend even using ADS, because it's nothing like PUBG. It's not even like H1Z1. Or any other first-person shooter. It's just very inaccurate. It doesn't really make any sense. So I don't recommend the ADS. I'm not a fan of it, but the third-person gunplay is kind of nice. It doesn't have so much of an RNG Fortnite feel. It feels like if you're aiming somewhere and they're in your crosshairs, you're gonna hit them, which I like. It brings more skill out into the game rather than just being random. Aside from that, though, there's not really a whole lot that's different with this game to separate it from games like Fortnite, H1Z1, PUBG, and now even like Paladins is releasing the Realm Royale, which I was able to play a little bit of. There's nothing really to set it apart from the other games. There's just not enough anyway. The only thing that really sets it apart enough is the fact that you can do the cash option, where you earn cash through the game and then you buy stuff with that. That I like. I do enjoy that aspect of the game, but like I said, for longevity reasons, I don't know if that will actually work. I don't know if, when people have been playing this game enough, when you start getting too many veterans that are just grinding out tons and tons and tons of cash so they can start all their games perfectly loaded out. I mean, that'd be the way to do it if you're going to play this game. It'd be use the next month to just goop around in the game, make as much money as you possibly can in game. If you win, you win. You don't really worry so much about winning, but worry about getting as much money as possible. And then you've got, a month worth of games where you can literally just start the game out on top and pretty much get that huge advantage. I don't think, for longevity reasons, that this is a good idea, or that it's really going to work out in the long run. I think that if they don't, find a way to balance that and maybe fix it a little bit more, maybe make guns a little bit easier to find, I think that's for starters one thing they need to do. But I think if they don't find a way to balance this properly, it will end up being the downfall of the game. But that's my thoughts on this game. Have you guys played it? I want to know what you guys have to say. Have you tried the game yet? Are you on the fence? Was it a bad idea for Boss Key Productions to release this game in such an early state? My personal opinion, yes. I think it's definitely insulting to the consumers to release something this broken and unfinished, and just hoping that people will buy Founders Packs to fund whatever game it is you're wanting to do. If it really is a passion project, they should have waited a little bit longer. Sure, the craze might have died down by then, but right now they're already late to the Battle Royale craze, so I think they should have waited and released something a little bit more polished. But yeah, I am going to keep it installed and tune into it a little bit more and give you guys updates if there's anything big to say about it. But for the most part, I'm really not going to invest very much time in this game, and I'm definitely not investing any money in it, at least not anytime soon, unless something amazing happens with this game. So that's my thoughts on it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you liked this video and you want to see more, please click that red subscribe button. We do have a Patreon account. If you guys want to check that out, the link is in the description. We are working on a series for just the Patreon. That is how to build an arcade cabinet for less than $100. We have already started and filmed the first episode of it. I'm just in the process of editing it right now. So if you guys want to check that out, you don't need to be a patron. You just need to visit the Patreon page just to watch it. It'll be uploaded here shortly. I don't know if there's going to be an A&S tomorrow. I'm still talking to Nathan to figure out if we're going to be able to do an A&S tomorrow, if we're going to do a stream, or what's going on. But I hope you guys tune in regardless of whatever we decide to do. And I will see you guys next time.